This is Ken from Coffee Crafters, and I wanted to do a new video demonstrating our new base model, Artisan XE. And we get a lot of questions about what the difference is between the base model and the deluxe model, so we thought we would go over that. And I'm going to go ahead and get our roast started, and then I can explain that stuff as we're roasting along. One of the differences between this roaster and the deluxe model is on this roaster you load it through the hood. So we have a little gate on the hood here. And there's a stainless steel chute, and we designed this chute to fit in the front side of the hood, and it locks into place. We designed it to accommodate the same 2-gallon food grade plastic bucket that you use on the deluxe model. And the ridges of the bucket will fit right over the front side of this, and we load our beans that way. Another thing different on this roaster is the Artisan XE Deluxe model has the light built into the hood. And on this one, we cut a hole out in the back of our new chaff guard here to accommodate the external light. So you can see when I turn it on, it illuminates it inside. It's exactly like the little chaff guard that we have on the little Artisan 3E, the upgrade. So I put a full 10-pound load in. So I'm going to go ahead and get the roast started. So we'll establish the loft on the beans, and we're roasting. So one of the differences between the roaster, really the only big difference, is in the mast and hood assembly. So a lot of people are wondering if it's a different roaster. It's exactly the same roaster. In fact, I unbolted our deluxe hood and removed it to put on this new base hood for testing. So this is exactly the same roaster, chaff collector, and bean cooler. On the back side of the roaster, one of the differences is we don't have a plenum to share the air, because we have 3 different areas that share the air on the deluxe model. One is the hood, and then we have over the top of the deluxe model a hood, exhaust hood over the bean cooler to catch that little puff of smoke, and obviously also the suction for the bean cooler. So on the base model, we just have a Y on the exhaust blower over there. One goes to the bean cooler and one goes to the exhaust hood. One other thing that we found, the exhaust hood that we have built on this has a full 5-inch by 5-inch going all the way down to the 4-inch duct going in. It really vents well. One of the things we discovered while we were dumping it, and we'll show a close-up picture of that when we're actually dumping the beans. When you unlock the hopper and go to dump the beans over into the bean cooler, you can turn it 30 degrees clockwise towards the bean cooler, and it's still sucking up the exhaust through the hood. So you just get one little tiny puff of smoke between the dumping and when the bean cooler, you know, with its downdraft catches that smoke going down. So it really does vent well. So you might be wondering, what are the benefits of the deluxe model over the base model? One of the benefits of the deluxe model is you can preload your next load of beans up in the top while you're roasting this one. So when you dump the beans, you can automatically pull it 6 seconds, reload it, gets it going again. The deluxe model saves you about 20 seconds per roast cycle in reloading. And then the other benefit is having the exhaust hood over the top of the bean cooler to catch that little bit of smoke. So those are basically the 2 differences. So virtually both of them have about the same hourly production, a little bit less. If you were doing, you know, 6 cycles an hour, you would lose about 2 minutes of roast time in that hour roasting on the base model. So that's about it. If you take a close look inside of the hood while it's roasting, the lighting actually works really well. One of the things we found out after we roasted for a while, the cleaner you keep your chaff screen, the more reflective it is inside. So the light shines down and it hits that bend on that stainless steel inside and really illuminates it inside. It illuminates just as well as the Deluxe model having the external light. So we get the same hourly production out of the base model. If you're roasting to a medium roast on a warm machine, it'll do 6 turns an hour. So you can get a true 60 pound per hour production out of the base model, which is really good. If you're going a little bit darker and you're adding a couple minutes to each roast cycle to get to a really dark roast, it will add about 2 minutes per cycle. So in that hour's roast time, you'll lose about 1 cycle. So you might be 50 pounds an hour roasting a really dark roast, and you'll be about 60 pounds per hour roasting a light roast. One of the things I did test on this machine is I was able to roast 12-pound loads, if you wanted to, in under 12 minutes. So on all of the Artisan roasters, both the small roaster and our 2 larger models, we look at that sweet spot in roast time as 8 to 12 minutes. So if we can keep that roast cycle between that 8 and 12 minute sweet spot, you're going to get a really good result coming out the other end. One of the metrics that I still look at all the time is I'm always looking at the bean temperature probe. It's the one metric that I look at all the time. And I will try to establish about a 1 to 1.5 second per degree of bean temperature rise, the bean temperature rate of rise, the ROR. And if you keep it in that window, you know, you can go completely through a roast cycle without adjusting anything but the bean loft. And once you find out what that setting is, I just leave it in the same place. I turned the machine, we started at a cold start. I turned it all the way up on 10, all the way up on high to the stop, and I will do the complete roast cycle on high. It'll probably come in at about 11.5 minutes. So we're already at 320 on the dial here. One of the things that's different with this model as some of the other ones, the thermometer and temperature probes are notorious for being inaccurate when you're buying the production equipment. So we use this DigiSense thermometer, and it has a calibration adjustment on it. So I will roast a medium density bean, you know, South American bean, to 400 degrees, and I will adjust this to 400 on the temperature probe and then just leave it alone. Okay, we just hit 420 degrees, so I'm going to dump this at about 440. We're going to do this one to a medium roast. So one of the things we want to make sure that we do is before we dump the beans, when we're about 10 degrees from where we want to be, I'm going to open the blast gate on the cooler. And this hopper's gimbaled, so you'll see how the hopper gimbals when we dump it. There's a lubricant that we put on here. In fact, Carrie just cleaned this for me for the video and re-lubricated it. And you want to do that every once in a while. And it's Teflon impregnated anodizing on the contact surfaces in there. So it is really easy to dump it. It'll pretty much fall over on its own when we unlock it. And the way that we dump this, we lift the hopper up slightly and then just rotate it clockwise to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and open the blast gate. So now it's downdrafting into the cooler. So when we get ready to unlock this, we're still sucking up here through the hood. We're downdrafting through the cooler. And so you'll see when we go to dump this, it doesn't lose very much smoke going up. There's just one little puff that gets away when it breaks the suction here right before it hits the downdraft. Okay, and we're ready to dump it. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock it and dump it in the cooler. And that was it. One of the things to remember is always have the hopper in its seated position. The only time you wouldn't have it seated is when you're dumping the beans or when you take it off for cooling. So that's it. We just roasted a 10-pound batch, and that took about 11.5 minutes. It would be about 9.5 minutes on the next batch of warm machine. So now that that batch is done, you can immediately roast your next batch. In fact, if you want, when you open the blast gate, you could go ahead and remove this and put the chute in so that when you dump the beans, you can immediately pour your next one in and start it while the beans are cooling. And that would be a complete cycle. Thanks for watching.